to introduce you to what I'm calling the blonde warning, which is the era from 2017 to 2020 when Hayley used chromatic transformation to announce the most dramatic artistic pivot of her career. Because while other artists announce major sonic shifts through interviews or cryptic social media posts, Hayley was ready to drop her next 180-degree metamorphosis, but she did it at the salon. The shift from blonde wasn't gradual or subtle. This was a complete color overhaul that made her look like she'd stepped through some sort of interdimensional portal and emerged as an entirely different person. Gone were the warm, vibrant tones that had defined her stylistic DNA for over a decade. In their place was this almost ethereal platinum shade that seemed to glow under the stage lights and made her appear both more mature and somehow otherworldly. Fans immediately knew something seismic was coming. She'd spent years training them to read aesthetic cues as artistic indicators. So when she showed up looking like she'd gotten the makeover montage treatment from a Shondaland procedural drama, speculation reached fever pitch. When Hard Times dropped in April 2017, it became clear that the blonde transformation hadn't been just a simple hair glow up. It had been advance notice of a complete genre pivot. The song sounded nothing like Paramore had ever created. It was synth heavy and dance influenced, with production that belonged more on a Robin album than anything resembling their alt rock foundation. The visual preparation had worked perfectly. Instead of fans being shocked or betrayed by this sonic departure, they'd already been mentally processing the change for months through her appearance. But let's talk about the deeper implications of going blonde in 2017, because it wasn't just about preparing fans for a new sound. This was Hayley signaling a fundamental shift in how she wanted to be perceived as an artist and as a woman. Blonde has specific cultural coding in American entertainment. It suggests sophistication, maturity, a certain type of polished professionalism that her previous pigment decisions had deliberately rejected. Yet blonde also carries another powerful association, and that's accessibility. Think of how celebrities like Emma Stone or Taylor Swift and Reese Witherspoon have used blonde hair to project approachability and relatability. The approachable blonde archetype makes stars seem more touchable to their audience, creating intimacy through familiarity. This duality, sophisticated yet accessible, polished yet personable, was exactly the balance Hayley needed as she prepared to reveal some of her most vulnerable songwriting. Remember, this was someone who'd spent her teens and early 20s using unconventional hair colors to stand out fiercely in an industry that expected young women to conform. The Orange Rebellion had been about refusing to fit into predetermined categories. But going blonde in her late 20s, this was about claiming space in categories she'd previously been excluded from, while maintaining the relatability that had always been central to her connection with fans. The timing coincided with some major life recalibrations. Zach Farrow had officially returned to the band as drummer in early 2017, bringing back a founding member just as they were embarking on their most experimental era. Her marriage to Chad Gilbert was dissolving, which meant she was navigating very public personal change alongside this artistic transformation. The blonde served as a protective coloring during what could have been an incredibly vulnerable period, simultaneously signaling strength through sophistication while maintaining approachability during emotional exposure. Here's where the armor concept becomes clear. Blonde hair historically functions as dual protection in entertainment. It's simultaneously vulnerable, think innocent, exposed, and it's also powerful, think controlled and polished. This emotional duality creates distance while appearing more open. Exactly the kind of contradictory shelter someone needs when they're about to reveal their deepest struggles wrapped in deceptively bright packaging. The connection to her later solo work, Petals for Armor, wasn't at all coincidental. She was already discovering how vulnerability could be used as both a weapon and a shield. After Laughter as an album was sonically adventurous in ways that could have alienated their core fan base, but months of aesthetic preparation had done the emotional heavy lifting. When songs like Told You So and Fake Happy revealed deeply personal lyrics about depression and relationship struggles, wrapped in these deceptively upbeat production choices, fans were ready to follow her into this more emotionally complex territory. The blonde era also marked a significant shift in how Hayley presented herself in interviews and public appearances. The vibrant, rebellious energy of her earlier periods was replaced by something more introspective and measured. She was talking openly about mental health struggles, the challenges of growing up in public, and the pressure of being seen as a role model for young women. The lighter locks seemed to reflect this more vulnerable, thoughtful version of herself. Throughout 2018 and 2019, she experimented with different blonde variations, sometimes platinum, sometimes with silver undertones, occasionally with subtle pastel highlights. Each shade felt like she was fine tuning not just her appearance, but her artistic identity. This wasn't the dramatic reinvention we'd seen during the Rainbow Chaos era. This was sophisticated evolution. The blonde period also coincided with some of her most politically vocal moments. In 2018, she made the decision to stop performing Misery Business Live due to lyrics that could be interpreted as slut shaming, sparking intense debate among longtime fans. The more mature appearance seemed to give her additional credibility when addressing these complex cultural conversations. She looked like someone who'd evolved beyond the perspectives that had shaped her teenage songwriting. But perhaps most significantly, the blonde warning proved that Hayley's visual telegraphing techniques could work for complete artistic reinvention, not just incremental evolution. After Laughter became their second number one album, proving that fans trusted her judgment enough to follow her into completely uncharted territory. The months of aesthetic prep had transformed what could have been a jarring surprise into an anticipated evolution. By 2020, as the world was shutting down due to the pandemic, Hayley had successfully transitioned from being seen as a pop punk princess to being recognized as a mature artist capable of sophisticated, emotional, and sonic complexity. The blonde transformation had served as the bridge between who she'd been and who she was becoming. But global isolation has a way of forcing introspection, and Hayley was about to discover what happened when the visual conditioning techniques she'd perfected were applied to an audience of one, herself. Sometimes the most radical transformation isn't about changing how the world sees you, it's about changing how you see yourself.